Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the 173rd regular meeting of the South Slough Commission. I'm going to do a roll call. We're sitting here trying to see if we have, make sure we have a quorum. So I'm going to do a roll call.
Can we take just a quick test? It sounds like
Yes.
I cannot hear.
Sorry. Can you
So
hear us, Chris?
how about Jenny and Cinnamon? You cannot hear?
We can hear that you're talking, but I don't think the mics are picking up because it's really, really quiet and distant, and I have my sound all the way up.
Oh, is that better?
No. Turn it on and then speak very close to it.
Okay, can you hear me now? Not really.
Faintly, yes.
Like you have to be like almost kissing it.
But this is red.
Yeah, red is on.
Is it concrete? Is it? Oh, never mind. Okay.
Red is on.
Okay.
But you have to say like this, otherwise it's not.
Okay, can you hear us now? Okay.
It's better. I think we can make it work. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm starting with a roll call so that we can make sure we have a quorum today for any votes. So, Laura, Beth. Here. Thank you. Charlotte.
Here.
Lance. Not here. Maya is not here. Jessica. Chris.
Here.
Cinnamon.
Here.
And Paul. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, thing, not you.
But Chris is not voting. We don't have to do. Okay. We will, for now, while we wait to see if we can get it, Commissioner, we were going to table the adoption of the meeting minutes, because that's an action item, and we will move to public input. Does anybody sign up for public input? Does anybody get Hearing none, receiving none, we will move on to the agenda items. Would we have an informational update? Sure.
Hi, it's Patricia Fox, and it's gonna give an update. I recently got back from Washington DC for the Noah's Coastal Week and for the SSNERR board meeting. Overall, the mood was more optimistic than it was in the previous year. I was not in attendance the previous year as I was on medical leave, but heard a lot from other folks who were able to attend, one of them being our cost board member, Todd. And I would say that the security of the Capitol was extremely tight. So the overall mood was, when I met with the congressional electeds and the staffers was more optimistic in tone, but the security was quite tight and making the appointments themselves quite difficult. I made 7 appointments for both myself and Lisa Phipps, that's the Coastal Zone Program Manager at the LCD, with Senator Merkley in Wyden's office, Congresswoman Bynum's office, Salinas, Dexter, Hoyles, and Bonavici's office. The key messages were talking about the economic benefit one pager. That was something that was created for the economic forum for the Coastal Conference last fall, and it was very well received. The timing for that was really good because we met Dr. Neil Jacobs, that's NOAA's administrator, and he served in the first Trump administration. I wasn't in this role, so I did not previously know Neil Jacobs. So he actually spent a lot of time with the Coastal Zone Management Program managers and the SSNERR managers. We actually sat with him on 3 different occasions, and he stressed the importance of tying the SSNERR system specifically to economic return on investment. it's not something that traditionally has been done in the past, and he wants to make sure that no one does have economic advisors and accountants on staff. And so they're opening up those staff members to nurse managers and other staff to have access so that we can actually start to run those types of numbers and scenarios, because that's not really our area of expertise. And really wanted us to stress that return on investment that we bring to the local economy, the regional economy. So that one pager went far, so it was actually a really good thing that I had that in hand. One of the other things that was stressed was to also talk about what we all have in common and what's at risk if we don't continue getting funding. And he specifically brought up long-term data sets and the system-wide monitoring program. So what was really great is we had, and we'll see here in a minute, a video that was produced specifically for this reason to go to DC to show a video clip of our swamp, highlighting that in our research that we do as the baseline for really all of the reserves. So that was the intention behind that. That was the target audience, was to take to DC. So the timing of that was really, really good. And also just when going to DC in the past, these folks get tons of material all day. I mean, they just get so many flyers and brochures and pamphlets and, you know, you sit down and their tables just full of them. So to be able to just show them a video that's like 90 seconds long and then have them like it, share it on their social media and show it just went a long way. So it's like a total break from just paper material. And it went over really, really well. One thing I did not think about though was like the Wi-Fi, having it up on the visitor feed because it's all public. They're not gonna let you be on the super security feed, so it's like the video would load. And then like it started to like not load, and then it would like start to load because it's on our YouTube channel. And so I'd be like, come on, you can do it, just another second. So that part was a little stressful, but other than that, it went over really, really well. The third thing that we were asked from Dr. Jacobs was to focus on safety and security. And he said that could be very wide ranging. That could be, what is the SSNERR impact on ports and port security, seafood and safety in terms of consumption for the public. It could be about anything. Pick something, it doesn't matter. If it's about safety or security or access, that we should focus on that, because that's very bipartisan, and that is a big deal. That's a good trigger top, if you will, to gain that support that is really, really needed for the SSNERR system. So what was great about that point is we have a very timely project going on right now, that obviously since you're here, you are very well aware of. We have a procurement, acquisition, and construction project, which is a PAC award with our friends from South Slough, right, looking at a cash match to completely redo our front entrance project. And that 1.6 and some change $1 million project was the primary focus was to improve safety and security and access. So that messaging was perfect because we could say, oh, we're right in the middle of doing the project. And that is also why we need PAC funding going forward. Not only that, but thank you very much for the past budget we got, but we did get that third year of BIL funding. That was so important. And that third year of BIL funding was directly impacting by funding for one of the positions that is helping manage this project, which is the project manager position. And without that support that we're getting from our friends in South Slough, we wouldn't be able to have that project going the way that it's being done right now. So it just was really, really good timing on being able to have specific examples of being able to leverage our relationships, our resources, talk about people, like how this funding impacts our direct projects, how it impacts our direct staff, and just the impact that it really makes to all our residents. And a lot of them, they were like, oh, I said, are you familiar with Seven Devils Road? And some of them are like, oh yeah. some of them are like, nope, and they pull it up on their phone, and they're like, whoa, look at this road, I'm like, yeah, can you imagine turning into this road, we're gonna have turning, you know, might not die coming into our visitor center. Like that would, yeah, I can see how that would be helpful, so just really brought home the message of how we are rural, and how we need that to be able to come safely into our visitor center. So overall, it really did go quite well. It was also confirmed at that meeting that 2 more reserves will be part of the program, are part of the reserve network this year before the end of the year. When exactly, we don't know, but it is, will happen before the close of this year. The Bay of Green Bay in Wisconsin, and say it wrong, I was raised in Georgia. Atchafalaya Basin in Louisiana. Not saying that correctly, will both be added to the NERR program later this year. So how that impacts the overall funding remains to be seen. We do know that the intention is not to take the overall operations award and divide it simply into 32 slices. These 2 reserves will not be fully functioning out the gate, and so they will not be getting a full piece of that pie, if you will. So they are anticipating to get a smaller portion of the funding than the existing 30 current reserves that are in the network. So that we were told that what that really looks like at the end of the day is unclear. And if we can watch the video that was shared, and this is one of 3 videos. The 3rd one is being completed now. We have another video that hasn't been officially launched yet, but this one is focused on science and research. We have another one that's focused on stewardship and how we approach our work at Preserve. And the 3rd one is about education and really about the next generation. And these were all funded by the Lawson Restoration Project. And just, it's really nice to be able to have a deliverable like this to help spread our message.
The National Ocean Research Reserve System was born at the South Slough Reserve in 1974. There are now 30 protected coastal sites across the country within this system. Each reserve conducts its own research relevant to the local area, while also monitoring and collecting some of the same data as part of a system-wide program. The system-wide data sets consist of meteorological and water quality data. The data are collected every 15 minutes and are made available to the public in near real time. In addition, the reserves have expanded the system-wide data sets to include vegetation monitoring, sedimentation rates, and water levels to understand how these factors impact our wetlands. The South Slough Reserve has been collecting water quality data for 30 years and vegetation data for 20 years. Long-term data sets are critical as they allow for local, regional, and national comparisons to determine trends, identify hotspots, and provide data for restoration, all important for coastal communities. They can also help decision makers and communities plan for flooding and reduce impacts that may negatively affect recreation, tourism, commercial fishing, and port activities, which are all vital to a healthy economy. Here at the South Slough Reserve, we're restoring 525 acres of the Watson Valley. Monitoring this restoration project will help us understand how restoration actions may benefit the landscape over time. Incorporating traditional indigenous knowledge into these projects informs our research and furthers our commitment to stewarding these lands so critical to our local community and to the estuary system overall.
Thank you. I tried to be able to show the video at the land board meeting, just last, gosh, that was this week. It's been a long week, and it was very, very well to see how. It was very well received by the governor, secretary, and treasurer. Okay,
Second South Acres Natural Area, southwest of Tuesday, Oregon, where coastal forests meet the continent.
sorry. We ran ahead. Do you wanna give an update on the visitor center? President, are we ready to move on? Yes, we're getting. We have a. We have a special.
Yes, yeah.
Do I go to that? Sure. Or over, yeah, in the way, but. Yes.
Good morning, my name is Gabby Braff, I'm the cultural resources specialist for the Coco Indian tribe. And this past winter, a collaborative effort between the Coco Indian tribe and our grants program, South Slough Reserve staff, and the Federated Tribes of Two Slough Umpqua, Sites Indians, and Federated Tribes of Select Indians. We all collaborated to apply for an Oregon Heritage Grant through the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department to get funding for interpretive display panel and interpretive text to match the exhibits that were updated in 2024 for the new fragment that's just right around the corner as soon as you open from around the door, because there's been a need from the community and tribal citizens and just staff in general to have a nice display respective of the communal fragment out there. And so we received, Jamie, I can't quite remember, I believe it was a $1,500 grant with like some 3,500 connections. Is that it? I don't know. Okay, yeah, anyway, it's a decent sized grant, not crazy amount, because it's just, we're just thinking of, like nice interpretive, like mural artwork behind or next to the canoe, a little like plaque label of with some interpretive text and maybe like a wraparound image around the base of it. Very simple, straightforward. We're planning on having that wrapped up by the end of the year. And we have a draft text going and we'll be working with like both within Hopewell and the other tribes of creating both like traditional language incorporated in it, telling the story of like where the canoe was found, how it was used, the age of it. And the artwork for the Hopewell tribe, and I'm not sure what the date deadlines were when CD Clues and Selects posted their call for artists. Hopewell's call for artists is for that interpretive artwork adjacent behind the canoe fragment that ended yesterday. And so as of yesterday, from just Hopewell, we received one bid. And we will hear back from the other tribes if they receive more bids, information, and talking with the tribes to see like if we want to open the artist call out to general public or extend it. But I'll say like if we go with one that we have, it's really pretty, it's really beautiful, very unique idea, but I won't say anything in case it turns out to be completely different. But yeah, just basically, and any input that the commission might have, like if you guys want updates on how that's going, or this just covers like we're doing this, and when it's all finalized and installed, we're going to have a nice little opening, like mini opening ceremony, not as fancy, as big as the larger exhibits. Because, I mean, if you guys want a nice, large, fancy display to celebrate the canoe, invite anyone that you want, because it's really special. Yeah, that's just basic update. If you guys have any questions, I will do my best to answer. Okay, thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you, look forward to that. We're gonna move past the fee schedule action items so we get confirmation, the forum rules. So I believe the next item up is the invasive species plan, the outcome decision-making process. Are you prepared to?
I just have a couple. Yeah, you could, that was pretty good. Yeah, I think you're going to be managed.
Okay, thank you.
You can get online. and we can't see you, so if you can come off mute and confirm. Or not confirm. Can you hear me online now? And we can't see you, so if you could come off mute.
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to speak to you a little bit about the invasive species plan, which is in draft form at the moment, and we're looking for feedback and guidance from the commission and other folks in the room to make sure that we're including everything in this plan that people need and want to see. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to specifically stop and have time for the commission to discuss and ask questions and provide some guidance here. We just tested it. We just tested it. Okay.
I don't know if it's because of the sharing.
Oh, 1 minute.
Hold on.
I can move back.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's because of, go ahead. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. So I've got a few things that I'm going to present on today. I'm going to start with the scope and objectives as currently in the plan, and then talk about what's been done here in the reserve in the past and what we're currently doing, and then move on to the future. And that future section is really where I'm going to be pausing and soliciting input. There you go. I have no good loss. And those are also the two things that I handed out to people in the room and post online. I apologize, I will go over them with the presentation, but they'll also be sent out, Patricia, I believe, in a post package. So, scope and objectives. So, one of the things is drawing on the information that we already have and the decision making and objectives that we've already identified. And so, in the current with the management plan that is official at the moment, it's a little out of date. You can see there, there's 4 goals related to invasive species presence, impacts, management, and education. So I wanted to go through those. So goal 1, characterise and monitor the extent of invasive species affecting the reserve. 2 is measure and track the impacts of invasive species in coastal habitats. 3 is reduce the impact of invasive species negatively affecting or threatening the reserve. And 4, increase distribution of information about status and impacts of invasive species to diverse audiences. So when we think about these goals, we see that they each have their own unique geographic scope. So I just wanted to kind of point some of those out. I feel like we're getting feedback. Does it sound okay? Okay. So for this goal 1, we're really looking at areas affecting the reserve. And so throughout the document and throughout today, I'm going to talk about the reserve. And by that, I mean the lands and waters that the reserve manages. And then the second one is a lot broader. It's talking about coastal habitats. And so this could be an Oregon coast, Pacific Northwest, but then we're part of the national system. So how can we develop research and better understanding of impacts on the national coastal scale as well? And then we have 3 is affecting or threatening the reserve. So again, we're bringing it back down to the reserve, but it's not just the reserve management, but because the threats are coming from immediately outside the reserve, we have to be looking in our local areas to sort of identify those and manage those threats. And then finally, diverse audiences, which is really broad. So kind of just put down, everything in there, but really focusing on our local community as well, so that we can make sure that the reserve is protected through those educational pathways. So just to give you a scope of the managed lands by the reserve, so these are the parcels that are currently listed in the DSL database, and Jen Kirkland put this beautiful map together showing the central location where we are, but then also some reserve managed lands here in the Coos watershed. So this plan aligns with invasive species management, the reserve's mission. And so by emphasizing proactive prevention, early detection, effective response, and adaptive management that's informed by monitoring, research, and best management practices. So we're really trying to align with those existing priorities and protocols that the reserve has. We're not just reinventing things in this plan. So who's the audience for it? So really, one of the key audiences is staff. So we need information about how to find the best management practices and ID identification. So this is ever changing. There's a lot of people out there that are putting together these fantastic resources that are available to us. So we're not trying to replicate those in the plan and cram them all in there, and then there's this new information next year that sort of makes that out of date. So it's more about directing people how to find those resources. And then knowing where our high priority areas are within the reserve. And so this can include where we've had existing high impact species, sites that we're already managing, high risk areas. So these can be areas that say have experienced recent disturbance like the Watson Valley, and there's high risk for invasion. And then introduction pathways like the visitor center here, so there's a lot of people moving through, and understanding where those areas are can help guide our management. And then understanding the decision-making process, so this is something I'm going to talk about further in the presentation. And then having a centralized database and methods for record keeping and mapping new detection. So this isn't, you know, the intent isn't to have a static map in here that just shows all of the invasive species detected in the reserve, because when we go out next week and we find another one, that map's going to be out of date. So what we need is a location that is centralized that other staff can access to have that up-to-date information. And then guidance on how to make introductions. And so I've been talking to BLM staff about what do you include in your contracts, what language do you have to make sure that your contractors aren't bringing invasive species into the reserve. And so having examples of like some contract language in there so we can help minimize that introduction. And then a record of past efforts and lessons learned to guide future management. I realise that there's no real centralised record of all the fantastic work that's been done over the reserve. So providing that synthesis in one place can kind of help us manage in the future. But there's other audiences as well. The Commission was originally the ones that requested this, and quite rightly so. I think it's about time that the reserve has an invasive species plan. And then partners, tribes, public, so people that are in our community that are looking to the reserve. And we want to give them a better understanding of how the reserve manages invasive species and how we contribute to research as well, so that they can then build that trust in our decision making. We would like people to be able to look at this plan and say, yes, the reserve is taking due diligence and understanding and thinking about all of these essential processes that go into decision making. So just quickly, there's a couple of past syntheses that are available. So there's the site profile, which is very specific to the reserve, but it focuses on aquatic species only. And then our very own Jenny Schmidt was the lead author on the PCW data source back in 2015. And this was a really comprehensive review of the Coos watershed. And then so we don't want to duplicate these efforts, but we want to make sure that the reference and the information that's pertinent is incorporated in the plan. And this plan also, so this chapter also identified data gaps. And so one of those is making sure that we have really good mapping efforts and we understand where our invasive species are located. So we're trying to fill that out. So a few things about the process that we've gone through with reserve and our past efforts. So I just wanted to note that we've been collecting spatial data on invasive species for a long time, but it hasn't been unified. And so there's a lot of different public mapping apps out there that are used, as well as internal mapping apps. So what it means is we have a lot of data, but it's not really centralized. And so the problem is that we've got different sources of the data in different storage locations. Access to data is different. So those external facing apps, we have to work with them to pull that data down. And then incorporating inconsistent data collection, so when we use multiple apps, it's not really consistent. So I'm working with Jen Kirkland, a GIS specialist, to try and pull all this together and make sure that this is all useful and ready to move forward. So I wanted to talk about some of the highlights and the work that the reserve has done in terms of invasive species management. But I didn't want to sort of talk about everything that we've done, so I wanted to pull out some of the key objectives and examples of how we meet those objectives, management objectives through prevention, early detection, rapid response, eradication, research monitoring, and reducing impacts and reducing spread. So for prevention, there's the cordgrass vagina, which is an invasive species, 2 invasive species here that have been found in the Coos watershed. One of them, smooth cordgrass, was detected just outside the reserve at the mouth of South Slough. And so there was a real worry about this invading into the reserve. But due to early detection and effective management, that population has been totally eradicated. And so 2025 surveys have shown that it didn't recur at that site, which is really exciting. Currently, there's a population of, dense flowering cordgrass throughout the watershed, and the reserve is working really closely with ODA and Coos to manage this, to make sure that that doesn't come into the reserve lands, which could be very devastating. So again, that early detection and rapid response help the prevention of that species into the reserve. So I wanted to use scores as an example of early detection and rapid response. And so the populations of the reserve, we are not like Bandon, thank goodness. There's a large population on Pier Point that was managed with herbicide, and then every year, especially Jeannie Stanley with our Friends of South Slough group, is amazing at going out there and pulling little baby gorse out as an ongoing effort. We have an isolated plant that Craig Cordew managed, and because of that early detection, rapid response, we haven't seen that population expand. And then every year we get a couple of plants coming marching up along West Beaverville Road and Seven Eccles Road, and we just really need to keep an eye on that side and make sure we respond really quickly. So eradication, Jubata grass is a species that's potential for eradication in the reserve because its seed is not very long lived in the soil, it only lasts about 2 years, and the populations are very isolated, it's not widespread. So we managed a really large population of Slough lane back in 2021. Over 5,000 plants were removed, and then we've been recently monitoring that site and removing it. So then there's other satellite plants that have been managed, and we still have one patch that we're still working on. So again, the lesson learned is that we need to sort of do some follow-up after these that's appropriate for the species. I'm not going to talk about the 5-spine crab. You're welcome to talk to Sean Schooler about it, and you all have heard a lot about this species, but just wanted to sort of push for research and monitoring that can help guide management before it becomes a really large impact. And lastly, reducing spread. So this has been we wanted to include it because the Commission approved herbicide management at the maintenance shed there in 2025. And so this is a species that hitchhikes on our hikers' pants, and we wanted to make sure those central hubs where it could be spread out is clearly managed. And we have to avoid those periods when the seed is setting. And then sometimes we want to think not just about an individual species, but these priority areas. We're managing multiple species in a priority area. And so this might be, gorse is a really high priority species, but maybe this is a suite of low priority species, but because they're all kind of concentrated in an area, we want to focus on it. And I just wanted to put this out there that, we feel helpless a lot when we're dealing with invasive species. There's a lot of species out there that we see every day. But if we can choose an area and concentrate some efforts, we can see real reductions in those, and it gives our stewards a sense of achievement that makes them feel like things are possible. So leading into that, what is our management strategy? So after I received this job around 7 years ago, we established the South Stewards, and Deborah has been really instrumental right from the beginning in organising this. But we've had 6 years of monthly stewardship programs that, and this is a group of people that thank me for the opportunity to work hard for 2 hours because they see it as really valuable. So we're reducing weeds and we're building community. So moving into the future, I just wanted to say again that I'm working with Jennifer Kirkland about standardising those GIS and spatial data, making sure it's regionally useful, standardised, easy to use, and tracks all of the stages of management. Okay, so this is where I was to walk you through the handout that I gave you, and those online, you're not missing out on anything. They just have a sneak peek. So this is a proposed decision-making process. The majority of this process is actually what we already do at the reserve. And so I'm going to highlight the area that is requesting some change or some guidance that you do. So essentially, stewardship coordinator will identify best management practices based on the best available data. Then ask the question, does the method involve soil disturbance, chemical use, or fire? And if the answer is no, then we kind of jump straight down to the implementation, documentation, record keeping, and then effectiveness monitoring and adaptive management as needed. And then if that's not successful, then we move back up to the beginning and we look for another strategy that we can try. If, however, there is soil disturbance, herbicide or fire, then we go through some extra processes. So I'm going to start with the chemical or herbicide and fire. Oh, sorry. So both of these, stewardship coordinator will review non-target effects, risks, and feasibility of costs, resources, and then complete the specific control plan, which I'm going to put on the next slide, and you have a printout of. And if during this process, those risks are seeming to be unacceptable or resources aren't available, we can move back up to the top. So every time there's a little arrow going off to the right, that means that at this point it's sort of exiting the flow and we need to find another strategy. So for chemicals, the reserve manager will review and determine approval. So this is a new step here. And again, it can exit if it's not approved there. And then if it is approved, the stewardship coordinator will submit specific control plan to the tribal historic preservation officers and cultural staff. And this is the same as for those soil disturbance. So the process that we go by now is if we're creating a soil disturbance with invasive species management, we go to TIPO to make sure that we're not damaging resources. And again, you can skip out if there's unacceptable risk. And then if it's approved, then we apply permitting if needed, organise cultural resource monitors if the TIPO officers deem that this is needed, and then communication with staff in the community as needed. So for example, this might be these large scale disturbance projects, high use areas, trail closures are involved, that intersects with research or monitoring and making sure we're not impacting those activities as well. And then going into implementation, documentation, record keeping, effectiveness monitoring, and action start. So this little box here is the only thing that's a new process in this whole strategy. This is what we internally do already, except that this week. So I wanted to go through what the specific action plan looks like, but I did want to pause and see if anyone had any questions about this, or if you wanted to go through the specific action plan and then look back to this.
And I would just point out the reason for this change is because, or this proposal, is because right now the process is that we would come to management commission to ask for that approval, that step. And with Bitty Bitty, there was concern because at the time when it would flower, we go to seed. And you all only meet 3 times a year. So logistically, it doesn't really make practical sense to ask for permission for some of these invasive species to have that level of control. And for statute, you all only meet 3 times a year. And for statute, it states that you all have you all are in control of the daily operations. Frankly, that is not true. The daily operations are within the manager's control, and I think that I should be held accountable for that control and subject to that accountability. So that would be putting the reserve manager, the commissioner that I speak to, and, to have that role and have that accountability. So that is where this step is coming in, because that is part of my job description, and management commission hired me. And so that's why I feel like that accountability should be pressed on this position's shoulders, and have that transparency. So that's why this step is different.
A question for both of you. Is there anybody on staff that is certified in integrated cost management?
No. So we don't have any chemical applicators licenses on staff, and so we contract that out. I'll speak to that.
Right, but an integrated cost management certification would also help with the ERR program, and it's more of a sample specific application to review of the approach. Okay, that's good to know. And I just want to ask online, since we can't see any of you, does anybody have any comments or questions at this point?
Not right now. No.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out, so we would have to, broaden up for any occupied species. So this is for, right?
Yeah, so the question is thinking more broadly, if we're including aquatic species, management strategies for, animals in vertebrates. Yeah, so whether or not there's a different process by which, trapping and killing, invertebrates or invasive animals would be separate. I would think that's a great point, and I would recommend those it was placed in there with this manager approval process. Patricia, did you want to do that?
It is a very good point, and I would say that we would specify that that would be excluded, or, yeah, that we, because we also have to get our take permit, and that's the ODFW, so that's also highly regulated on a different method. This is really speaking on uplands, but it's a very good point to make, and one that we will need to specify, so thank you, good point.
Yeah, I can be language because I'm very good at focus on
Second slide.
Okay, I'm going to move on, but we can always revisit this.
This is Cinnamon Online. One quick question, and I'll be really honest, it's pretty hard to hear still, so I might have missed this. But is there a definition that you're using for invasive species?
Yes, I apologize, I didn't put it in there. I lay out in the plan what a noxious weed is, what an exotic plant is, what an invasive species is. Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me to quote that, but I can send it out.
And so this response plan is limited to invasive species or other species of concern?
And any exotic species of concern that might be threatening or impacting the reserve is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
And just to note, this, the full plan is something that's on DSL's strategic plan, to be completed before the end of this year. And the intention is to bring this portion of the outline of this, because this is really the meaty topic, and then to come with the full plan at the July next commission meeting. So you'll get a full plan to actually be able to review in its robust form. So this is just a sneak peek of what we think is the most meaty topic within that entire plan. That there'll be plenty of time for the commissioners to be able to take a look at that plan in advance, gather public comment, feedback for full transparency before that plan is finalized.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Does anyone else have something online? Okay, thanks. Just interject if you do. So the other part of this So I mentioned up here that there's this specific control plan, and so this is a template that's existing that we would like to adopt here at the reserve that hasn't been used before. And so a specific control plan tries to outline all of the relevant information related to a specific request. So this is not how to control ivy at the reserve, it's how to control ivy at this one specific location. And so it goes through all of these different, I'm not gonna go through everything here, but basically it sort of has background, why it's a priority. It goes through information about the current existing, what are the threats, and then it sort of lays out different management options and the pros and cons or the challenges, costs of these different management options. We hear
Just somebody talk, yeah.
Okay. And then, so that the intent is that this is a single location where it has a synthesis of the information about the weed management area. And then, so the decision-making information, so how much does it cost? How much staff time is it going to take? What are the potential non-target effects? So that this can go to Patricia and she can have, you know, all of the information at her fingertips to say, that we've done our due diligence to understand potential risks of not managing it and of the different management strategies. And then it also goes on for the next step. So after we manage it, how are we going to evaluate its success? How are we going to monitor it? How are we going to collect that data? And then the last one isn't something that you put forward in the original plan, it's how you document that and evaluation of that strategy. And so it's a place that, you know, someone can look at the full scope of it as we move forward. So here's an example. This is the example that I put in your package. So this is a site within the South Slough watershed. We have recently opened up the forest so that we can remove a lot of those suppressed trees and have increased light to the understory so we can have native plants popping up. But there is a section in there where there's a pretty robust ivy population, and now we've created a space that is perfect for ivy to thrive and spread. And that is until that canopy reestablishes and that forest kind of recovers from that disturbance event. So we were aware of this population. You can see here back in 2023, the Saturday stewards had a hard effort, all these trash bags removing ivy from this site. And you can see now in 2026, there's still a really robust population, and we've got the ivy falling up the trees. The additional challenge with this site is because it is in the forest management area, we now have a lot of down wood on the site as well. And so what I talked to invasive species managers, specifically swamps and ecological, while we were out on the site, I said, what would you recommend as your strategy? And so he put forward strategy of trying to manage this slash so that we have access to the ivy, and then using a chemical herbicide application, which is outlined in the specific action plan. And so when we talked about like, what are the likelihoods of success with that and how much effort, as opposed to having a monthly stewardship program going out there repeatedly for many, many years. So the other thing that is in the specific control plan is potential impacts to cultural resources. So the area that we have worked with the tribes, tribal historic preservation officers, to make sure that we're not impacting it with our forestry actions, as well as with these looking around the site and seeing that there's no cultural resources that are likely, like living cultural resources that are likely going to be harvested in the near future that could potentially impact those people harvesting. So all of that sort of information is packaged in that specific action plan. So I didn't go through all of that information. I will be sending out afterwards. Patricia, do you want to speak to moving forward with this and what we're looking for the commission?
Sure, yes. So we will be sending all of this out, either electronically or mailed, to you. And then I think the next commission meeting is already scheduled for July 8th. And I think the goal is to have maybe that draft of the invasive species plan sent to the commissioners in advance of that meeting. So if there's any questions or things, topics that you think are missing from that plan, we can go ahead and address those in the meantime, so we can be prepared for that July meeting to have a robust discussion. And also we just wanted to prompt this at this meeting as well, so that we often do not get a lot of public comment for these meetings, at least since I've been in this role. So just wanted to also prompt this, because we'll be putting our annual report on the website, and we'll have this agenda on the website, so that it'll give time for some folks that might be interested in attending the July meeting, or if they have any questions, to be sure to come to that meeting, or if they want us to provide any public comment, so we can gather that feedback as well. So we intend just to have a robust discussion in July. Does not necessarily mean that we are going to be adopting that plan in July. We will have another commission meeting. The goal would be to be able to finalize a plan before the end of the year, if possible, as is the DSL strategic plan goal. There was two that was in the strategic plan for DSL for South Slough. One was an invasive species management plan, the other was a fire management plan, both to be completed by 2027 in the spring. I understand notice that we're actually trying to wrap those up by the end of the year. So the next plan that will come to the commission and to the public is actually a fire management plan that also is well along in its way. So we kind of have two plans that Alice has been working very diligently on for years. That will be kind of back to back, but this is the first one, and then there will be another one as well.
And just to speak on the fire management plan, so that has gone through a lot of information gathering, and it has been in a draft form and been sent out to the tribes for review, and they've been heavily involved in that plan development. And so there has been a pause for a long time, which is because I had to implement the wasn't a great project, and also we had to put this as a high priority as well. And so that plan should be ready to move forward with this one.
I have one, just recommendation between now and July, so you don't need a permit for spraying the Endangered Species Act, but there is actually, some indications that some of the pesticides can cause harm in coho. And so under the ESA, section 4, there is a pathway for approving integrated pest management plans to ensure that they are consistent with ESA listed species protection. Not that this, I'm gonna suggest that we submit this and get it approved before we approve it, but it would come beforehand. It's a programmatic permit. You don't do individual permits for that.
Right.
And so there are examples of those in the Federal Register notice, and I would just encourage looking at those and looking at this to make sure all of the pathways here are protected for ESA species and also.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great guidance. And I sort of just put a placeholder in here, we've needed, and so I would like, that's really valuable information, and so that information will be incorporated in the broader plan of like, what does that step mean? You know, but also knowing what those species are, because we don't want to be even getting this far down if we're going to be potentially impacted. We don't want that. Thank you. The final thing that I just have is just pretty much a note on resources. So we kind of just talked about like a lot of the fantastic work that's been done at the reserve, a lot of the strategic plans that are moving forward with it. But I just want us to say about, you know, as Patricia mentioned, budget and everything else, that we are somewhat, limited. And so just sort of put a plug for personnel support. So currently that stewardship coordinator is responsible for this invasive species management, but not to say that I do it all alone. Staff really contribute in a lot of different ways, like research coordinator on things five-spine crabs, public involvement coordinator, assisting with those the bank organisations. our field staff is out there all the time and they're doing plant monitoring, and they're the ones really that detect those early invasions during their monitoring and other efforts. Education staff providing education and outreach through different pathways to our community, and then GIS coordinator with mapping strategies. And so it really is a whole team effort, but the team is very busy. And then this also relies heavily on volunteers, and that's puts a lot of like fostering relationships and everything else when it comes to volunteers. And then finally, so financial support. So as I mentioned, we don't have any applicator licenses with reserve staff, and so we would have to contract out all of those for herbicide applications, and any large scale projects need funding for contractors. But we also need tools and supplies, and it's really hard to find funding for food for volunteers, but it's also recognised that it's really important to feed your volunteers, and that's where Friends of South Slough have been amazing, as well as the food co-op has been donating food for these programs. And then we do normally have a small amount in our normal operations funds, but as we all know, the budgets are tight. And then it's really hard to find grants for these general, I don't know what's going on with this, but for these general maintenance. And so sometimes we can find grants for specific high priority noxious weeds, but it is hard for that general maintenance. So, with that, thank you to volunteers and staff contributing to this important work.
Thank you, Beverly. Just want to open it up for any questions or comments from the rest of the commission. Online?
Thank you for all the information. No questions.
Great.
I just came off of a friend's group. I think I have been working in invasive species management and aquatic environment for many years. And I think Sean has been on the Oregon Invasive Species Council. There are a number of people within the region that I would suggest that you send this out for review to them, that include federal partners as well as state partners and certainly the watershed councils, because this will be elevated to actually increase the potential for cooperative opportunities in management as well. So a little outreach would be targeted outreach would be very important. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so I'm on the South Coast CWMA. I can never remember that.
Good weekend.
Yeah, thank you. As well as the Gulf Action Group, and both of those are well represented with all of the invasive species partners in our community. And so that's a group that I've been drawing from heavily. I've been giving the advice. I've had one-on-one meetings with individuals like ODA and BLM and Who's Watershed Association to sort of build the content and direction of this. And I have asked them, please review this. And so they have said that they would. So we'll see how their capacity puts that. But that's a great point. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at 11 o'clock. How long we got time? Should we take a break? Great. Sure. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break because I know we have a number of items coming up. Thank you. Check in and make sure we have you're ready to go. Thank you. He was anything I said, oh. Yes, email.
Hi. How's it going? Yeah, you enjoying it?
Yes.
Good.
Working?
Uh-huh. You never know what you're gonna get on every day of the week.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Well, both, today. Yeah.
Yeah, they just now, like, areas. So that does,
Well, it's nice to be a hardwire now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, right, I know, exactly. Downside is the better. Well, yeah, and I know Sean said, is he down at Shutter Creek today? No.
But I don't know if you also, we are, so we're not the other huge,
Good. I need that.
Well, this is like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh. Re-energize, yes, you make everybody step up a little better, yeah.
Yeah. So how do I find yeah.
You have something.
Yeah.
Is that worth
I'll send you some of Yeah. The thing is, because what you're saying, the screen, we don't see them, right? I'll have to think about how to think that. There's a way to keep them, the short ones there. And like kind of. Yeah, sometimes the kids, I mean, you can see. So I'll see, find out how to keep them. Yeah. But overall, you think. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have to remind us of it.
Okay, so because you do that, yeah, okay, right on, like, she's gonna fit this piece, like, everybody fits this piece, like, she's gonna be like, well, right, okay, and then. And I French that smart. Or maybe that's maybe I'm right, and then. I'm not sure, I'm here. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's all very, I'm like that. It's something. It's like. Yeah, no, I will not hold this next day. I need to go. Yeah. Well, I tell you something, how long is that easier to sing you? Well, I'm not, I get the, you're not. And I'm very not. Take the action items. Well, that's. No, actually. So just be safe. For folks online, we're gonna get you started. All right.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Because we only have 4 voting members, we are going to delay the action items, so the adoption of the minutes and the fee schedule until our July meeting. So that brings us to the annual report.
Okay, we're on it back. To everyone in this room and online, just a simple, like, just a reminder of how nice it is to have an IT person. Real, ready to help out. It is so lovely to have a firm helping. And to have hardwired internet also, it's also very, very lovely.
Okay, as you say that, I did something that,
I know, this actually happened. I first give a shout out to Ted, who's one of our Ted Bright, IT people in Salem, and then he had, issue bringing up that video that we shared, that we gave him this meeting, and so it was kind of a funny moment. Jamie, I think, Jenny, I was thinking of us, because we're so superstitious.
I still like that when they're, we were on, I thought you did not.
Oh, I know, I kind of said that. Looking back, we got to the DQ meetings. Perfect, okay. Thank you. So this actually has Chris's name on it because, for the land board, which we just gave us a couple days ago, he, co-presents it with me as, the new deputy director of land management division. But we do this annual report every year, and, this will be included in your formal packet, the follow-up packet that the commissioners are going to get. This was a boo-boo on my, although our will say it was well planned, it was not. This is supposed to actually be part of your commissioner's packet, and I was remiss that it was not included in that. We had some staff changes and changed the SharePoint and a lot of other things. So this will be not only available on our website directly following this meeting, but also part of your follow-up packet with Alice's information that she just shared. So for the 2025, it's always hard to pick exactly what we're going to share because there is so much wonderful work going on. But as you all know, we have about 7,000 acres of natural area, including open water channels, tidal freshwater wetlands, revenue area, and forested lands. For this year's report picture, we chose the last year's salmon celebration, which we were honored to be invited again to participate in with our tribal partners, as we have in prior years. That is our boat in the foreground there in the front. And we go through these lands with our 3 local sovereign tribal nations, the Confederate tribes of Coos, Florida, Colorado, Indians, Hopewell Indian tribe, and Confederate tribes of Siletz Indians. Next slide, please.
Mhm.
So the point of this slide is we do a lot with a little. We have 3 core programs of research, stewardship, and education. But really within this, you've got your internships, your public recreation, teachers coming to the reserve to then learn about estuarine and science and take it back to their classrooms, in field, going into schools, having classrooms come here and do field trips, all kinds of different sorts of facets of educational programming from inside and out, all ages, and same with the research opportunities. We've got high school interns, we have postgraduate students, we have researchers contacting our science staff all the time, wanting to inquire if they could do a research project here, if they can collaborate with our research team, just accessing different data sets that we have. There's just so much going on. There's 20 of us, and it is astounding always to me how much we're able to accomplish, and our wide-ranging impact, not just here within the local community, but regionally, nationally within the network, and frankly beyond, because of the impact that we have. Next slide, please. So this is a beautiful, picture that was taken by, Jen Bergman to the UAS. That was just too cool to not put up. This slide is, to me, speaks volumes. So in 2025, we had one of, I would say, even though I've not been in this role very long, an extremely stressful year. We did not know if we were going to have a budget at all. We had the mayor pro position completely disappear. We were scrambling to try and find how we were going to keep an after-school program, the Estuary Explorers, going. We were trying to leverage the tap dance and find money wherever we could, and just trying to keep everything afloat, frankly. And in last year, we actually had an uptick. With limited resources, not only were we able to actually keep things afloat, we actually have an increase in the number of visitors coming to our visitor centers. This is an increase in all the people we're serving. Probably see our brand new exhibits that we're able to finish that whole project by almost 350 more people. The number of community programs increased from 164 to 271. We did not increase any staff. Keep in mind that that is with leveraging resources from the Friends of South Slough and Judith A. Mogan to help our Estuary Explorers program to keep it going after our AmeriCorps program was shut down. The number of volunteers removing invasive species during the Saturday Stewards program increased to 119, which was up from 67. And that's with the assistance from the Friends of South Slough helping to coordinate and expand that program. So not only were we keeping things afloat, we're actually expanding our impact. And I just think that just is a huge message. Next slide, please. So the Watson Creek Phase 2. So we have the huge bipartisan infrastructure law, $3.1 million a competitive grant for the Watson Creek project. In the first phase, the project was dominated mostly by a lot of removing work and regrading and recontouring the valley and removing invasive species, primarily Greek canary grass. So for phase 2, a lot happened as well, but I'll just highlight. We had 199 acres of upland area that was thinned. 73 whole trees were specifically placed in the water channel to slow flow, connect the floodplain, and provide habitat. 33 nurse strips were constructed out of log piles to mimic nurse logs and installed in the tidal area using different design features to further study their effectiveness. And we were able to construct, as you'll see here, this is during the construction phase. It's now done, and we did a soft opening. It's not a grand ribbon cutting yet, but we constructed a 143-foot boardwalk that will allow the public to view and be immersed in this restoration project. So you can walk out on this, look upland, and then look all the way down into the tidal area of this project. And I'm pretty excited about it. It's for education programming. It's for anyone in the public, and really excited about this new structure, this platform, that you'll be able to really view this project. Next slide, please. So every year we have what's known as the TOE. It's the Teachers on the Estuary, and that's where we provide some stipends for teachers throughout the state to come here, learn about estuary science, and then take it back to their classroom. And that's actually one of the required programs that all reserves do in the network. But this year, it was a little bit different. The approach was different, or for 2025 rather, it was different. We partnered with Teach Climate Summer Institute and some other organizations to build a climate-focused curriculum for the program. So there was a level of coordination that really was increased because we were dealing with these outside organizations, and there were several of them. So it took a lot of effort from Jamie Bellinger and others, mostly Jamie as education lead, to really coordinate all of that. But what she was able to really accomplish was those teachers were able to get access to climate experts from all around the country virtually. people that we would not normally have access to at all. And then, of course, they had they had a hands-on portion of the week here as well. But that partnership really demonstrated the value of collaborating with outside organizations and really gave that opportunity to connect with top scientists from around the country that normally these teachers would not have access to. So that was really exciting. And I know your partnership put a new approach. Next slide, please. So as I started to reference, in a year of uncertainty and stress due to federal funding concerns, we completed a lot of timely projects and leveraged resources and explored new funding sources. Again, SSNERR Explorers, our after-school program, was able to still run through the year. We also received 2 competitive federal grants to acquire 193 acres of critical habitat for the reserve. We also replaced 2 old pilings that host sensors for our system-wide monitoring program. This is not exactly one of the ones that was replaced. This is what it looks like. It's for our swamp. That's from one of the videos that we just watched earlier. And this is our long-term data set for water quality, weather, biological communities, habitat, land use. And this is the foundation for long-term data sets for all 30 reserves, so maybe 32 in the network. Next slide, please. So this was a real highlight. This is a treat. This is the SSNERR. This is a huge thing. So last summer, a group of high school students worked to build an uncrewed sailboat. They named it the SSNERR. So it was launched by, I remember the day that Jamie was writing the email in her office, and I walked in and I was like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm writing an email to Slough Brothers to see if they'll take this boat and launch it for us off of the coast somewhere. She's like, how do you think this sounds? And so we're drafting this email. It's like, hi, I'm Jamie from South Slough. And it worked. Very charming. They took this boat 300 miles off the coast of San Francisco on September 1st for us. By December, the SSNERR had traveled halfway between Hawaii and Papua New Guinea. So the purpose of this is students got to learn about air and water temperature from boat sensors. They got to learn about currents and so much more while capturing the essence of exploration. So this project was in partnership between South Slough, Puerto Rico STEM Hub, Charleston Marine Life Center, and Educational Passage. This alone, just from the South Brothers and the Charleston Marine Life Centers, with all the, well, one, because it's a really cool project, but also because all the partners on this, we captured over 10,000 likes and 200 comments from social media. So that's pretty killer and probably the most we'll ever get for anything. So just a really, really cool thing to track, and you can still track it online. Next slide, please.
I got it yesterday. It's in Micronesia.
It's in Micronesia. Okay.
I think I'm putting it back where it's going. Oh, mine was following. Somebody else did.
What's the prize? Did you win? Do we get a step picture?
I think so.
So for the future, we have a lot coming up, but the 3 that I'll highlight is the one that you all saw in real time getting here today. It's the front entrance project. So this is that $1.6 million procurement, acquisition, and construction front entrance project. So with the financial support from BOSS, who contributed 30% cash match for this project, we will have a new turn lane on the Seven Hills Road, more visitor parking, school bus access, security lighting, and a new gate, all of which will improve access and safety. And that project is going to wrap up in June. So by the time we have our next commission meeting in July, it will all be done. For the second, land acquisitions, I mentioned this, we were successful in getting 2 competitive federal grants to do 2 different land acquisitions. So we are actively working on completing title acquisitions for the current landowners, which includes extinguishing mineral rights and completing a lot of other due diligence items, so that we can close on these properties and then hopefully do some future conservation work on these properties. The grants were strictly to do due diligence and just to acquire the properties and buy them outright only. And that has become a lot of work. And the third is, really going to be the highlight of Blossom Creek Phase 3. There's other work, of course, going on in Blossom Creek, but we are prepping for the traditional garden with our travel partners this spring and summer, and we planting it this fall. There's also a new trail, that is well underway. It's about 0.3 miles. It's going to be open, soft opening this summer. So folks can venture down to the new boardwalk and immerse themselves into the restoration projects. And this picture is actually folks that are kayaking after a King Tide event, like actually near where the traditional garden actually is going to go. So they're in the tidal area of the Blossom Creek project. And with that, this is, I believe, this is the Oregon Institute of Marine Biology's students doing some fishing. They're one of our current partners, and we're thankful for it. And there'll be a lot more to come. And I purposely did not talk about live spine shore crab this year. There's a lot happening, and Sean will have a ton to report out next year on that. Very exciting stuff. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patricia, and thanks everyone for making this possible. Any comments, questions? Online? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on. Thank you, Patricia. We're gonna move into the information report. Rebecca's not here today, so Patricia, are you doing the administration?
I am. Yeah, Rebecca's not here today, so I think I'm actually giving the administrative facilities report and also the training and engagement report. So for the administrative facilities report, we received 2 separate resignation notifications during the last reporting period. Kathy Andreasen gave her notice of retirement. Kathy had been at the front desk of the visitor center for 28 years. We all know Kathy pretty well because she traditionally always took the minutes at management commission meeting and also did the packet that was always sent to you all. She already is greatly missed. Her official retirement date was March 31st, 2026. Would like to recognize Jimmy Hall, who is now taking over that role of putting together the packet, mailing it out, and taking wonderful notes and minutes. So thank you, Jimmy. Taylor Comment, who is our training and engagement coordinator, also submitted their resignation. Their last day was March 13th, 2026. And they were going on a mission to New Zealand to pursue their doctorate degree. And Sarah was at the reserve for almost 6 years. So just recognizing their contribution to the reserve. And we are currently in discussions with the exec team and HR about recruiting and future plans for those 2 positions. We did just finish a solicitation for the training and engagement coordinator and had interviews this week. So we will have news regarding the training and engagement coordinator very soon. Staff applied for and was awarded a $50,000 grant for the Judith A. Rogan Foundation to support the current seasonal educator funding to continue the after-school program. That's the SSNERR Explorer program. That funding kicked in over the winter of 2025 to 2026. And that position, we are hoping can still be added to the policy option package for the next biennium to make that seasonal position a full-time year-round position. It's currently a seasonal position. If we do not receive the POP, either elevated through VSL or from the legislature itself, we will have a gap in programming because that SSNERR Explorer program was provided by the AmeriCorps position, and that AmeriCorps program has been discontinued as of 2025. Rebecca mentions state budget reports for the 2025 and 2027 biennium through February of 2026. I have to make sure that those are in your packet, and if they are not, then I will include include those in your follow-up packet. Looks like so my packet does not have those in here. So you might have several items in your follow-up. Rebecca is also, our manager news is also monitoring federal grants we currently have and is working on getting costs met and reimbursed quickly. Our FY 27 operations award planning and budgeting is in full swing. Our draft application going to NOAA is about ready to go in. We were supposed to have our final application due April 1st in the system. We are still waiting to hit go on that. So our spend package has not come through, and we are still waiting to be able to officially apply for our operations award. So we're ready, but we officially are not able to actually apply for our operations award. We do not know when we will be able to. Also, the PAC award has not been advertised yet. So we know that we are going to submit for a PAC award for the roof and for replacing solar, and then also for the siding to replace for creating a accessible space. If so, we could, if we don't light up like a matchbox in case we have a fire. But we are also waiting to see if and when that will be announced. This year, NOAA has transitioned all reserves into a 2-year funding cycle. So some reserves have always been 2 years. We happen to not be one of those. We were on a 1-year cycle. For the first year, we were given, all reserves were given marching orders to do a 2-year funding cycle. For the first year, we were given a budget of $50,000 more than in the last 2 years. So that would be $930,967. And in the second year, we were told we were supposed to budget a 10% increase. This would be wonderful news, but the second year increase is not guaranteed. Management submitted the draft budget with the 10%, but we're also looking at a backup plan to rebudget if we do not receive the full 10%. That same year, staff will receive union negotiated cost of living increases of 9%, plus additional transition bonuses. So there's a $1,700 plus 40-hour vacation for union workers due to moving a twice a month pay period. So that's something in the collective bargaining unit. So that's just something that is specific to our reserve and not necessarily the other reserves in the network. So that's just something that we have to plan for as part of our budget. Operation manager news continues to submit the progress reports for multiple federal grants for usual timelines. These progress reports are due every 6 months. And at the end of the grant closeout, I know we have several that are due at the end of this month by April 30th. And I already mentioned the fact that we're looking to do, in addition to that, we're thinking that some of the upgrades will also to the road for the solar system and replacing the siding with fire rated options. That will also assist with our site becoming an evacuation site for OIMB and Nouveau campus and the locals along 7 Devils in the event of a disaster. So we have contracted with HGE Design to help assist us with our options and pricing for this project that will help our grant application. Once HGE Design's preliminary assessment comes back, we'll have a better idea of the dollar amount needed for this project. We also, management did meet with Oregon Emergency Management staff to look at our options and collaborate to how we can make the site a more robust evacuation location. We have a lot of infrastructure and equipment that can be already used in the event of a disaster that can help the local areas survive until more help could arrive in Coos County. So the planning and discussions for this are ongoing as we go through this process. As far as facilities and trails, staff continue working on the trail system and facilities doing routine maintenance. We have been short-staffed during this quarter, but we've been able to continue doing the work with some help from our friends at the Elliott State Research Forest to help fill in some of those gaps. And we are also working on trying to update our very outdated trails plan. We have we put into the budget, the draft budget operations report to try to update the trails plan and put some funding towards that work to hire a contractor for the assistance. That trails plan has not been updated since the late eighties, early nineties. So we'll have more details to come once that project continues. And then I already mentioned we have the land acquisition projects. We have the Deal Triangle, that's 113 acre property. That's currently owned by Coos County. We are working through that process. That was a little bit complicated because we have some structures on that property, some abandoned structures that are very old that need to be removed. And then we've got the Winchester 80 acre property. That was more straightforward because that was already owned by the DSL real property team and managed by the Oregon Department of Forestry. So we've got a whole different things going on, and luckily we have our real property team in Bend that is helping us through all of that. And shout out to Juliana Ruckel for all of her help on the current front entrance project once again. And to Voss, Juliana would be able to help project manage that project at all unless we had Voss offering and helping pay for her staff time, because her position is completely DIL funded, and that is a PAC project. So we've been charging 10 to 20% of her payroll this entire time to Voss, so that she can help work on that project. So just very thankful for that. And speaking of, so since the project is due to wrap up in mid-June, and we already have July 8th on the books for management commission from 10 to 1, thinking most people will come to these meetings in person, so why not have a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate on that same day, like 1 to 3. So just to go ahead and put it on your agenda or in your head that to stay a little bit extra on that July 8th management commission meeting to help celebrate the achievement of this project coming to fruition. This project looks to be not only on time, but actually on budget. And we have had some shenanigans with the turn lane off of 7 Mills Road. And among other things, but it is a milestone and we're very excited. So please, your invitations will come, but I just wanted to go ahead and announce it at this meeting. And then as far as some of the our next big event probably will be next spring. In the fall, we will have our travel partners announce the names for our new trail in the traditional garden. And we'll have a more formal event for the boardwalk, the trail, and traditional garden. Probably sometime next spring. We'll just have a soft opening for those things. As folks can just, once the trail will probably be ready in August. So it won't have an official name yet, and that's okay. Just like the boardwalk, people can use the boardwalk now, it's just kind of hanging out for the moment, but we'll do an official celebration of our tribal partners sometime next spring. We'll announce that once we get closer to that date. But we've got a lot of great things happening. Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, and, okay, and this Saturday, we actually have a Saturday Stewards event, working on the traditional garden with some of our trouble burgers. That's this Saturday, and then on the 2nd, we have the spruce tip collection with one of our oak burners, with Seven Devils Brewery, to create the spruce tip annual ale that they are going to release on Memorial Day weekend, I believe. And that's another thing that we do with one of our local businesses, collaboration and in collaboration with Foss, with the portion of those proceeds coming to Foss and then help support us. So another great event. So thanks for the reminder, Todd.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Any of those items? Great. We'll welcome Jamie up for the education update. All right, can everyone hear me? Okay. All right. I don't think we have anything big from education. during this winter time, which is the reporting period, this year packet, it's kind of like our slowest time of year. I would say we still have programs happening regularly, but not as many and not as frantically. We have our reflection and planning meeting, so we did that during this reporting period, which helps us figure out what went well in the previous year and what we're going to change moving forward, or sometimes we're thinking about positions and programming. So all of those things that happened are in the packet. I was gonna mention we had our education sector meeting, which is something where all of instead of our annual meeting where we all get together at Missouri this year, we got together in our sectors. And for me, this was the first time I got together with just my sector somewhere else, and it was really fun. I found it really productive to meet with just the other education coordinators for 3 days. And we ended up talking a lot about how to make programs work and how to specifically make teacher trainings work. So we had some really productive conversations there that I think we're gonna make things better for all of us across the system going forward. And then going into spring, it does get a lot busier. So all of the types of programs we do are coming up. You know, this is this busy school season. We were thinking we might not have as many, I realize it's not. We would thinking we might just have limited programming because of the front entryway project, but I think because of all the coordination that Juliana did, was like always there, always listening, always checking. I don't think we had much of a change really in how many people we've been able to serve through that time. We probably didn't have as many programs up here during winter, but we don't typically have that many anyway. So that's been really great. Still, the rest of the spring school season coming up, the last of our after school programming coming up. We're just wrapping up the internship recruitment, so Deborah isn't here today, but that's a big chunk of her spring, and then what we all appreciate as we get our interns. We have 2 more high school interns to finish recruitment for, and then we'll be done with that. What else is on here? I think that's it. That's all I haven't done anything special. I was looking for a quote on my phone, but I got a really nice quote from Erin during all the, we just finished our summer camp lotteries and now our summer camps are filling up. We have these big wait lists for all the camps, but parents are usually very nice about even when their kids are on the wait list. And I got a really nice quote from a parent that I was trying to find my phone, and I can't find it. So it'll probably show up in your next packet. That's all I have. Any questions from the commission? Online? Chris? No? Okay. I do, since we were talking about the visitor center opening and Juliana, I know staff knows, but not Ross and the commission, Juliana was recently recognized as one of 3 DSL employees who were honored for being ambassadors of public service and will be honored at the governor's mansion on May 21st, I believe. And the category was leading with purpose, and so she received a lot of great nominations and accolades for her. Sorry, okay, training and engagement program, that's you. I'm gonna do this one on behalf of training engagement. I think the highlight for this one would be not just the biochar workshops that also took place in coordination with the stewardship team, but the market analysis and needs assessment part 2 was not actually granted through the neuroscience collaborative funding cycle. But I believe in the operations award, we are going to focus on doing the market analysis needs assessment part 2 in lieu of TOTE for one of the years, and that's allowed. And so we're going to take that flexibility and leverage so that 1 year we'll be doing TOTE and 1 year we're going to use do the math in its place. And so that was an opportunity that we're going to leverage. So excited about that opportunity, and for whoever steps into that role, being able to take that on.
And the person that's gonna take on that role to be able to work on that with our education coordinator and also with the rest of the staff here at the reserve. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. And Sean for science.
All right. Back here, see if I'm in the, okay. So I just wanted to give, use this opportunity to, give a little bit of, I guess, quote from a researcher who has worked with us in the past. And I thought this is a good way to, show, I guess, what researchers can get from our program. So this guy is Dr. Dan Taylor. He's professor of entomology at the University of Brigham Young University, Idaho campus. And he says, "Hi, Sean. I hope you're doing well. It's been a few years, but I wanted to reach out and reconnect. I had the chance to tag along on several research projects at South Slough with you and others a while back. These experiences have stuck with me more than you might realize. If you remember, I helped out on a handful of different projects, like the fishing surveys for lamprey, some eelgrass work with folks from Oregon State, monitoring for green crabs, and one of the stream restoration projects. I mostly did this groundwork and followed along. These trips were incredibly valuable to me. In the invertebrate biology class I teach now, I frequently draw on the experiences when I'm teaching my students about field ecology and real research. I thought I'd give you an update on what I've been up to as well. Last year I took a bit of a different trip and went visited several NOAA National Vegetarian Research Reserves around the country. Texas, Mississippi, the Everglades, in Florida, and one in Virginia. While I was there, I spent some time collecting insects at each site, mostly just out of personal curiosity, and to build teaching questions for my students. Interestingly, each reserve had very different insect community. Mississippi and Virginia were surprisingly similar, while Texas and the Everglades were dramatically different. Anyway, I'm starting to plan my summer travel and was wondering if it might be possible to come and spend about a week at South Slough sometime this summer. I'd love to tag along to any research projects that are happening that is helpful, just like before, and be happy to contribute in other ways that's useful. Other than that, I'd also love to set a few light traps and do a night insect collection. I've been slowly comparing insect communities from different estuarine reserves. It's been fascinating how different they are. I'm not sure how scientifically useful it is, but it's been great keeping my students exposed to organisms beyond what we have in Idaho. Thanks again for all the opportunities you gave me to tag along before. They've had a lasting impact on my teaching. And one more bit here too. He also says, thanks for being so accommodating. I've never worked with a group as easy as the NERR system. We have an interesting perspective from like a scientist who is using information that we're giving in the course that they're doing. Also, it also allows them to explore different reserves around the country. So it shows the I guess importance of the network and what we can do by being here to help them. And now I've organized him to come and actually work on our forest focal sites this year, one of the ice trapping. He's going to trap at our 12 sites and see if the insects are different for different forest treatments. And that also links to the bird community surveys that we've been doing, because most of them are insectivores, since now the birds can be linked to the insects that can be linked to the restoration sites, their types, for their management methods. So I think that's a good example of how we can bring people in and help us do the research we want, while they also gain valuable experiences and can teach that somewhere else. So it shows the reach that we're having. As well as he's really interested in the accommodation that we can get. So we have things that we can help to draw researchers in. I think it's really important for us to realize how important what seems to us might be a little thing, but for them it's really important. So that was a good thing I'd like to emphasize, is that what we can do to bring researchers in and how far that travels and beyond us. And that's all I have.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Great, thank you, Sean. And Mr. Richard. Alex.
you've heard enough from me today, so I'm trying to keep it succinct. And I did want to use some visuals here, which we don't normally do for our reports. But, Patricia mentioned the biochar workshop that I worked with SSNERR on earlier, I guess it was last fall. So I kind of wanted just to talk about biochar reserve for a minute. And so biochar is a way of burning wood so that it locks up carbon, it reduces that carbon out into the atmosphere, and it also can improve our soils because our soils have been depleted through many extractive uses over time, where nutrients aren't getting back into the soils, and we're not having those traditional burners in our forest areas as were experienced since time immemorial. So I just wanted to kind of note that we ran a workshop with our training engagement program coordinator, and this was a lot of natural resource practitioners from our community, but also from pretty far up the coast came down to these workshops. And we demonstrated different types of biochar productions, and so there's some great resources that have recently been published from the US Forest Service that and then we ultimately worked with our forestry contractor, Farm Unlimited, to oversee a larger production with the Tiger Cat 6040 carbonizer with Toyota Logging Company. And so that's the big unit that was right at the bottom of the page there. So from that, we pulled source material. We identified an area that was potential high risk for ignition along the forestry roads in the Watson Valley, and we pulled the materials from along those roads to try and produce fuels. And then so that was around 4,000 cubic yards of green livestock. And we made the Great Wall of Watson up there and staged it for the contractors, and ultimately created about 150 cubic yards or 30 tons of biochar. And that sequestered over 75 tons of carbon. And so this biochar then at the bottom of the page is being used at reserve for different reasons. One of them is for weed suppression and soil augmentation in a traditional garden that we're working with the tribes on. And then we're also partnering with Southwest Oregon Community College to look at how biochar might influence the tree growth of Port Auckland cedars and also seeding communities. So that's the group coming out at the end. And I did just want to share a quote from one of the workshop participants that has participated actually in all of the workshops that South Suez provided as opposed with the Wasson project. So the workshops at South Suez Reserve are unlike anything else on the coast. The instructors are outstanding, deeply knowledgeable and passionate about the work, and their hands-on format means you're not just learning new concepts, you're testing them in real conditions alongside fellow restoration professionals. I've walked away from every workshop with practical skills, fresh perspectives, and lasting connections that continue to shape my work. So it's really exciting to get some feedback from those practitioners. And I'm going to miss Sabra, who was really, we had a fantastic time organising a lot of workshops together throughout the Awesome project. That's all.
Alice, could you speak to some of the coordination happening with the Elliott too on the biochar?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've met with the staff at the Elliott on several occasions and talked about how we can integrate and work together on these forest practices that we're demonstrating here, and then biochar as well. And so they came out and participated in site tours of the carbonizer, as well as the hands-on workshops. And we were able to take those opportunities to talk about what's the feasibility of incorporating some of these practices and trialing them on a bigger scale at the Elliott. So I'm really excited about how that's potentially going to move forward. And I know they're developing their program right now. And so they've got lots of good ideas. And we'll see how they go.
Excellent, thank you. I love the cooperation and the exposure this is getting. Other comments, questions? Okay, and I think last but not least is Ross.
Just, we've been mentioned enough and the report is very short, but again, a shout out to Juliana. In addition to the orange sweatshirts that all of the staff out there on the construction are having, Juliana has her own dark blue, I guess, I don't know, my colors well enough, but anyway, she will be wearing that as the person that made it all happen. So we're just delighted and thank you for supporting her. But there's been a lot of coordination, making sure that these Saturday stewards and all the other people can get in. So it's been a group project to make it work during this, but it's pretty exciting. Thank you.
Not just one thing. I just want to acknowledge Jean Stanley. She's not here today. She helped put together all the shirt orders for everybody. She's also instrumental in opening up the bookstore early on in Munster. But then she's working pretty hand in glove with the Saturday stewards as well. So I just wanted to say shout out to Jean.
Thank you, sorry, Jean. Can you tell us about the sweater shirts? What is it for? Oh, yes, the striped shirts.
Yeah, so what? So we thought it would be cool, the folks out there doing all the construction typically wear hoodies a lot. And we thought they were doing such a bang up job. They were bringing it in under budget. They were doing beautiful work. We thought, let's just get a hoodie with South Slough logo and all that kind of stuff. So you'll see them out there. I think they're orange and they're looking good. And they're having a bunch of campers and somebody gets a blue special one. So that's not those are all. It's just our way, Friends of South Slough, our way of saying thank you, everybody, for doing a job all the time.
Thank you, orange, we can wear on site.
Save you all.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, in terms of other items, we have our scheduled meeting on July 8th. We will be moving those action items to that meeting. And we heard Rebecca suggest the ribbon cutting from 1 to 3. So if we could all, I'll reach out to all of you via email, hold 10 to 3 that day. I know it's the middle of the summer. So it'll be beautiful. It's a great excuse for a vacation in the South Coast. Which it's vacation than you guys did. Any other items from the commission? Director Noel. Oh, that's fine.
I'm not sure whether, Gabby from Kirkland can speak to this, but last week or the week before, that, our local K-Val News, representative from Martin was here with Christina, from the filming a piece to be aired on the news, and I don't know the dates, if we might have had them, I was gonna have to say, but some of it was on, but yeah. I don't go.
Yeah, so the question or comment question was, someone from TV Kusi, Mark, is that?
No, it was on Christina.
Yeah, Christina, what was the mom, was her?
You know, Mark from the K-Val News.
Oh, okay, so it was just, so, local news station. I'm invisible to you guys online, it's okay. Yeah, so local news station came in, interviewed and filmed, our grants. Our, the Oklahoma Tribes Grants Manager, Christina Simpson, interviewed her about the grant grant that we obtained for the community magnet. The question was like, when that is being aired online or like on TV, I personally don't know. So keep an eye out on that. When I see that posted, or I'll ask Christina that, like, when she finds out, and I can share that out to people so that they can send it to you guys. Because, yeah, that's as much as I know. Most I knew about was Christina emailed me like the day before, because it was a little last day of her. She's like, "Can you tell me some background information on something new?" And like, here you go. So great question. It will show up when it does.
How old is that thing?
We don't know for sure because it hasn't been calculated, but it's definitely like well over 100 years. Yeah. Which will be the question that we interpreted. That, because that's like one of the most common questions we get, and yeah, because I don't know, to do the carbon dating would require a lot of consultation coordination between the various tribes, that they would even want to extract like even a small blood sample to get it processed. So at this point, it's old.
Yeah. Older than you are. That's it.
Excellent. Chris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just quickly before we conclude, I just wanted to speak for everyone's behalf. You heard mention of grants being ready, not being able to apply for, lots of budget uncertainty over the past year. I just want to express my appreciation and compliments to the entire staff for working under such incredible uncertainty, difficult circumstances. We've been feeling it as well. We've been trying to do our best. You see Jenny here. She's the main liaison from our office to the reserve. We've been doing our best to shield you guys from what we can, but we can't do it all. And recognize it's been really challenging and continues to be. But you know, the information reports, everything that you have been doing are just exciting to hear about amidst all of these challenges. So thank you for hanging in there, working through this, and we're going to hope it improves and keeps getting better slowly, at least bit by bit here.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you. We appreciate this partnership. Okay. For the good of the order, we are adjourned.
We'll just keep moving there.
Well, thank you.